A convoy of strong to severe storms likely over portions of the country. When and where? That's what I'll be answering in today's video. And folks, great to see you on this, I believe it is Tuesday, right? Yeah, June 10th, and got a bit to talk about today. Now, generally speaking, we're getting into what I would call a normal pattern for June, but that doesn't mean it's going to be completely quiet, although I do consider June, generally speaking, one of the more boring months of the year. We are still going to get a very active corridor of strong to severe storms really over the next week or so as a classic ring of fire pattern sets up. And trust me, it's going to be one that I think is very visible on some of the models today. I'll try to break it down for you and explain it to you. Now, if you haven't already, go ahead and like the video, subscribe, and hit the bell for the latest notifications. Great way to stay up to date as we continue to track, again, this pattern here throughout the month of June. And trust me, it will not be long before we're breaking down hurricanes. I think by the time we start getting about a month or so from now, is whenever we start to really get into the more active time frame of hurricane season. And there are plenty of parameters that suggest it could be a busy one, so you're going to want to stay tuned for that. All right, let's dive on into things and start talking weather with our satellite loop here. And this is our upper level water vapor loop. I'm recording this at about 2 o'clock Eastern time this afternoon. And you can see what's happening right now. We've got a couple obvious trouble spots, if you will, on the map. We've got this big cluster of storms over Texas and Oklahoma and kind of surrounding areas this afternoon and evening. That's due to a little upper level piece of energy. It's hard to see, but trust me, it's here over New Mexico and Arizona, leading to enough lift in the upper levels out in front of it. It's that divergence aloft, or that spreading of the air that leads to lift, ascent, and buoyancy at the surface. Again, we're seeing enough of that over Texas, Oklahoma, that complex of storms that's actually from yesterday is still working through that region and causing some active conditions out over that way. Now, another thing you'll notice is a big corridor of water vapor kind of getting picked up here over the Gulf and over the eastern seaboard, kind of a bit of a squeeze play here. We've got a big piece of spin up over the Great Lakes. That's helping to kind of create some lift. And then we've got this classic Bermuda high off the kind of coastline here. I'll try to draw it in a way here that you can see it a little bit better. It's kind of hard to see, but it's right here at the edge of your screen, and you'll see it's also adding a transport of moisture, and also with that upper level low, it's that squeeze play between the two that has led to plenty of afternoon showers and storms over the Carolinas. In fact, we even had a tornado warning yesterday near the Columbia area, and there was some reports of damage. NWS will go out and survey that, and decide if that was straight line wind damage or from a tornado. But again, a very summertime pattern here over the Carolinas and Virginia and even down into Georgia. You can see all this on radar imagery as well. Yeah, it's raining where I basically just circled the East Coast. Less of a severe weather threat, more of just a rainfall threat up into the Northeast. However, yesterday we did see a couple tornado warnings, including a confirmed one over portions of western New York. I told you yesterday's video that I thought that area could see a couple spin-ups, and that's exactly what we saw. And then again down south where we have that upper level low and that squeeze play into the Carolinas, seeing some rainfall down that way as well. All right, let's switch on over now. Let's take a look at some of the upper level maps and start breaking down this ring of fire on the way and what we're seeing out there right now and how that could affect your forecast. All right, our upper level vorticity map, one of my favorite maps to look at really all times through the year. And with this ring of fire pattern, it's going to be quite useful as well. Now, we're not going to go super far ahead in time right now. Now, we'll save that for later in the video. Let's get through just today and tomorrow first. And again, we'll kind of bring this into this afternoon, really this evening. This is what the upper level map looks like. Again, this big dip in the jet over the Northeast, that's that trough. That's what's bringing some of those showers and storms up that way currently. And then we've also got this area of vorticity or spin again down into the south over Texas, New Mexico, that general area, even through the Red River Valley of Oklahoma. Those are the big two playmakers, and also little ribbons of vorticity here off the Carolina coastline associated with little short waves getting rotated around that Bermuda high that I mentioned earlier. So everything's kind of making sense here by the time we get through today. Let's move it ahead into tomorrow for our Wednesday. Again, this would be June 11th, tomorrow. Notice we begin to kind of lose some of that troughing in the Northeast. It's still there, but we start to turn things a little bit more zonal. That's the beginning of this ring of fire pattern. Now, this is not a perfect ring of fire. If we had a perfect pattern, then we would just have a massive ridge here over the south central part of the country, and we do have one, but note, stuck under that ridge is a very well-defined kind of cut off upper level low here, parked right over Texas and Oklahoma. So multiple areas of disturbed weather. Again, that kind of main highway or corridor of storms over the next week or so is that ribbon to the north, but down south, that upper level low Also, again, combined with this Bermuda high is going to lead to an active stretch of weather down into the deep south as well. So I honestly think we're going to get the nice area in between the two, over areas of the Ohio Valley, Ohio itself, Kentucky, portions of Indiana, Illinois, Missouri, that area, going to have a nice couple days. It's to the north and to the south that we're kind of sandwiched between this active weather on both sides. Now, let's switch on over and take a look at some of the Storm Prediction Center outlooks for today and tomorrow and some models, and then we'll start moving things ahead into time and take a look at the rest of the week ahead. SPC outlook for today, again, really not a lot. We've got this big marginal risk, not uncommon to see that this time of year, but from Burlington, Vermont, all the way down the eastern seaboard, Charlotte, Atlanta, southern Alabama, southern Mississippi, and then a little bit of a slight risk up here into West Texas. Again, so that tells me nothing off the charts today. We are getting storms, though, like I showed you in the northeast and the southeast. Strong straight line wind, maybe a little bit of hail would be the main concern that way. And again, do not rule out a very brief, maybe spin up tornado up into the northeast, a little bit more wind shear up that way, where we're closer to that trough in the northeast. Out into West Texas, hail could be a concern today. You can see the hail outlook. Again, we do have that threat of some large hail. This does include areas like Marfa, Fort Stockton, Pecos, Kermit, Carlsbad, kind of that region. Could see a couple storms with significant hail today. We'll watch out for that. But again, you look at the tornado threat, small out that way. Nothing even in the northeast, but again, don't rule it out. Again, nothing that we haven't seen. It's been a very active stretch out in West Texas. This is basically a normal day in June, it seems like now, especially the way May went out that way as well. But wind going to be the main threat for really everybody today. You can see that wind threat. Anyone that was in the marginal risk, it's really driven off the threat of potentially strong winds and maybe a couple downbursts with some of these storms out into the east. Let's take a look at tomorrow and notice we start to change things up. We lose the severe threat in the east, but notice you kind of get that dual mode I was talking about. We've got the north up here, this corridor. We've got some strong to severe storms there with that marginal risk. And then down south, we've almost got a heart-shaped outlook over Texas with that upper level low. So it kind of matches what we're seeing again with the previous maps we looked at, making sense here. And as for tomorrow's threat, the tornado threat, we actually don't even have one on the map here for tomorrow. The wind threat, again, could see strong gusty winds in any of those areas outlined. And then the hail threat, kind of the same story. So a little bit of we'll call it a quieter stretch today and tomorrow. But don't get too excited yet, because again, this is just the beginning of that ring of fire pattern. And things are really going to bump up. Before we talk about that, though, let's take a look at some short range model guidance for today and tomorrow and time out those rain chances. All right, latest high resolution rapid refresh model. You can see this is for this afternoon, right around the time I'm recording this. Let's bump it ahead an hour or two. Again, the theme is going to be scattered showers and storms here east of the Appalachia chain and through the southern tier of the country, Texas, Louisiana, and then throughout the Gulf Coast. Mainly summertime pattern. I cannot rule out a couple stronger storms, though, into West Texas, as we talked about. Maybe a couple supercells, brief isolated tornado not out of the question, large hail, strong straight line winds. But east of the Appalachia chain, really just rain, thunder, lightning, heavy rain, and even, again, some strong gusty winds. And do not rule out an isolated tornado, especially up in the northeast. Although, again, not something I would be overly concerned about this afternoon. The evening, same story, same places. Florida, southern tier of Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, that Gulf and Atlantic moisture, again, going to be more than plentiful for some afternoon storms with that upper level lift over it. You can see overnight tonight, leftover storms into Texas. It's going to be more of a constant rainfall threat out there with that upper level low. That's going to drive lift, whether it's the afternoon or the evening. Now, the afternoon will have the stronger storms, but in the evening and the overnight hours, even, we could see some rain continuing to linger here by overnight tomorrow, or excuse me, overnight tonight and then into tomorrow morning here, pictured next to me. Now, your Wednesday afternoon, what are we expecting? Well, more of the same, folks. Afternoon showers and storms along the Gulf Coast, into the Carolinas. But like I mentioned, and I've said this in the past couple of videos, I do think we get a quiet period tomorrow into the Ohio Valley. I think the Northeast clears out a little bit more tomorrow afternoon. Here you can see a lot more dry there, while still stormy into the Southeast. Again, the closer to the beaches you are, the higher chance of an afternoon storm. And then this little surface low, pesky low up into Colorado, could lead to a couple strong storms there up into the northern plains. As we saw with tomorrow's outlook, you can see some of those storms fire in Iowa, southern Missouri, or Michigan rather. No, not in Michigan either. Southern Minnesota. I promise, I know my M states. There's a lot lot of them, but that is Minnesota, I promise. I do know my geography most of the time, at least. So we'll watch that for tomorrow afternoon and evening. Even Nebraska, a couple strong storms possible with that there. We'll keep it going here into the overnight tomorrow, and as we're waking up Thursday morning, again, complex of storms in Texas, more of the same with that upper level low being pesky and really parking right over the same areas. And then the start of that ring of fire, again, that corridor in the north of stormy potential beginning to rear its ugly head. All right, let's zoom out now. Let's talk about the rest of the week ahead and watch this ring of fire pattern really lock in with the next maps. All right, let's skip ahead to Thursday afternoon, and you can see here on some of our latest model data, we've got that ring of fire beginning. Now, still, this pesky upper level low, I told you, it's not going anywhere. It's cut off from the flow. It's going to need something to finally get kicked out of here or just kind of spin itself out. And that will eventually happen, but even by the middle of the week, still over the southern tier of the country, still bringing active weather to places like Texas, Oklahoma, and also still with that flow out of the Gulf, going to bring plenty of afternoon pulse storms into the southeast. Again, though, that's trapped under a larger ridge. Here's the ridge in that pink color, and with that, here's your highway of storms. Kind of hard to see there in yellow. Let me pick a bit of a different color. We'll do it in... let's see, we'll do this more purplish color. Here's your highway of storms on the northern side of that ring of fire. Again, that's the fire ring. You can see with the path of storms around it. So let's time it out for you. How long is this pattern going to last? Well, that's Thursday. Here's Friday, Saturday, and into Sunday. Notice we really begin to ramp things up. In fact, we get quite the strong ring here. Big, kind of bulging high pressure here over the desert southwest. It's going to even enhance the flow around it here. And again, it's that ribbon to the north that could see strong to severe storms associated with it by the weekend. And we get to next week, notice it shifts west a little bit. But as that's happening, we're going to get little pieces of energy to rotate around it. That's what we're going to need to watch here with this pattern, even a week or so from now, still hanging on. And you can see it here on the GFS model. As terrible as it may be sometimes, I'm going to show it anyway and risk my my credibility here by hoping that the GFS is actually right about something. We'll see. But the vorticity map shows the same story. I'll skip it ahead to, we'll do Thursday as well. Here's Thursday afternoon. Again, we've got that spin over the south. That's going to bring pesky showers and storms. But notice in the north, pockets of these little shortwave pieces of energy. These are their own areas of spin moving along that ring of fire that I've been telling you about. And notice by the weekend, continuing. Hopefully by the weekend, that little spin over Texas and Oklahoma finally gets kicked out of here a little bit and into the east. But notice, this is by Saturday into Sunday. All sorts of little pieces of short waves moving around this ridge of high pressure, some even trying to get into the northeast. And I'll tell you, it's really tough to pin down exactly where these will be, at exactly what times, exactly how strong they will be. But the pattern in general, again, shows that conducive environment for little short waves. And that's all it takes this time of year, combined with a lot of surface instability to get storms that are quite strong. And notice by the time we get, about a week or so from now, we really get going. This is more of a defined piece of energy here moving along that ring. Again, going to bring severe storm chances with it. And then we get about a week from now and, the models are going to diverge a little bit, but you can still see an active pattern with plenty of pieces of energy trying to work into the country. It may lose some of the ring of fire effects, but still looks quite active into that time frame. Now let's move it ahead here and we'll take a look at some more ingredients here for severe weather. And we'll go ahead and put a little pause here as well, and we'll go ahead and do that now. All right, so you need different ingredients for severe weather. That's no secret. Let's start with instability, or CAPE, or convectively available potential energy, is what it stands for. This is just thunderstorm fuel, basically, to put it in normal terms, without all the meteorological jargon, if you will. This is an ensemble view, so I think this is a great tool to use. It's better than just one model. This takes a bunch of ensemble members from the European, puts them together, and shows where we could potentially see higher end instability. Now, watch what happens. Again, we're going to get that big surge northward. The combination of that kind of ridge over the southeast that's pumping humid air to the north, and then that ring of fire doing the same with energy over it. We're going to get some trouble spots. So watch what happens, especially by the weekend. Here's Saturday afternoon. Notice CAPE values really creeping far up north. The Dakotas, Nebraska, heck, even Wyoming and Montana. Don't rule out severe storms for you. And these could have all hazards. They definitely could. A lot of instability creeping up that way. Note, at the same time, we've still got instability down south in the southeast. We won't have the wind shear there, but still instability for afternoon thunderstorms to continue. And I'll tell you, folks, it doesn't look to be going anywhere. We'll pause it right here. This is next Monday, 6 days from now. These are very high instability values, so we'll need to watch that. Stays that way for quite some time. The European model keeps it there, slowly shifts it east. This is about 10 days from now, but still dealing with this big bulge of instability working northward out of the Gulf. And that combined with this map, which is bulk shear, shown this before, the brighter the colors, the more wind shear there is, the higher likelihood of severe weather, potentially even supercells with, again, all hazards possible. Now notice, again, I'm going to breeze through this, but just where it's at. It's trapped up into the north. That's where the wind shear is, rather. Again, you've got a very strong jet stream here, so that's going to really increase our wind shear values. Stays that way for quite some time, folks. I mean, again, just notice the bright colors hanging on in the northern tier of the country. That does not change. And like I showed you on the instability map, we got plenty of instability up here as well. So you combine those two things, that's a recipe for severe weather. Again, I think all hazards on the table here. And this is normally peak severe weather season in the northern plains as well into the month of June. So watching it, and that'll definitely be something we keep an eye on. All right, let's switch on over now and take a look at a couple other things, and then I'll let you go. All right, let's time this out for you on the latest European model. This is, again, brand new. This is running right now, and luckily it goes out far enough we can use it. So we'll pick up where we left off. This is Thursday afternoon, and notice we've got a couple areas of active weather. So the northern tier of the country, again, seeing those storms that I told you about. Texas and Oklahoma, you're not off the hook either. Same thing for Louisiana, Arkansas, and then still afternoon showers and storms even into the Carolinas by later this work week. Into the weekend, here we go. Friday, again, a lot of afternoon storms. It's going to stay that way. I think even the Ohio Valley gets back into the action after a nice day tomorrow and Thursday. I noticed Friday getting active again, stays that way. Saturday, Father's Day weekend coming up. Yeah, looks pretty stormy. Now, not a washout again, but just normal afternoon pulse convection looks to be a concern here into the southeast. And then by the time we get to the weekend and into next week, yeah, see these little pieces of energy. That's what we need to watch for severe weather potential up into the northern plains, that instability. That wind shear I told you about, all of that going to combine for that potential of severe weather into the northern plains, and it just keeps on coming. 1 round, 2 rounds, 3 rounds, 4 rounds, 5 rounds, so on and so forth. At least 10 days out from now, looks to stay active up there with, I think, it really getting going by this weekend and into next week. Final thing we'll talk about is what about rainfall? Obviously something you probably care about. This is over the next week, and again, notice a drier slot in between where you're kind of, being spared from the upper level low to the south of you and the flow to the north of you, maybe Kansas, Missouri, Illinois, Indiana, areas like that could get less rainfall, but 2 distinct areas of higher rainfall, I think. One, in the southeast, again, though, it's going to be classic poles convection. Your neighbor could win and you could not. So, not everyone's going to get a lot. Now, if you're in Texas and Oklahoma, that upper level low, yeah, you'll get plenty of rain, potentially upwards of 4 or 5 inches over the next week. A lot of that falling really within the next 3 to 5 days. And then the northern tier, Montana to the Dakotas, Minnesota, Iowa, and Wisconsin, also seeing some higher end rainfall totals. So that's all I got for you on this Tuesday, everybody. Again, hopefully you found some use in it. If you did, go ahead, hit the like button. Let me know in the comments. Let me know where you're watching from as well. Always fun to see that. And I say this a lot this time of the year, but I do appreciate you watching. If you made it to the end of the video, let me know. Again, you folks are the real foundation of this channel, and really keep me going during these slower times. So I appreciate that. All right, folks, well, that's all I got for you on this Tuesday. Y'all have a great one. Stay safe, and I'll see you all tomorrow.